Now let's continue to define the structure of the survey. Let's add a plot form, a form to store the plot information inside the cluster. We want to be able to insert more plots inside the same cluster. So what we need to do is to add inside the cluster from here. Let's go to the plus icon and add new table or form. Let's select this one. As name we will assign name of plot, of course, because this will be the form for the plot. In display as, let's select form, because it won't be a table, it's more complex, it will be a form. And you have the only possibility to add a new form is to add it in his own page. It will be better because it will be separate from the current form in a separate section. And let's see how it will appear. Save and go back. You see now the structure changed. We have cluster, we have plot below inside the cluster. Here it's complaining because we haven't specified any attributes and any key attribute. So let's add inside the plot a new attribute for the key, for the identifier of the plot, and it will be our plot number. Let's add it as an integer. Let's call it plot plot number. Label as usual, you can write whatever you want, write it like this. We can mark it as a key, of course, because this will identify the plot inside the same cluster. We can also use this auto incremental option to automatically assign a new number to the plot whenever the user inserts a new plot. And then let's save and go back. Here is our plot form. If you want to see how it works, go to the preview and check what happens. This was the cluster form. Then when you go to the plot form, in the beginning you don't have anything because it will be empty. When you press the plus icon, the plus button, a new form will be created. You see? Then the number of the plot is automatically assigned. If you press the plus icon again, another plot is created. Here from this drop down you can switch and select the plot that you want. If you want, you can also delete the plot that you have inserted. If you have inserted by mistake, for example, you will delete it from here. Close the preview. Let's continue to add some other attributes. Also for the plot we can add an attribute for the accessibility. In accessibility region we can do something similar to what we have done for the cluster. Let's add a new attribute, type code. We call it in this case plot accessibility. Label can be just accessibility because we are inside the plot, we will understand it. Instead the name, as I was saying, should be unique, so it's preferable to use the prefix of the entity where the attribute is defined to keep the names unique in this way. Let's select a category. Accessibility, we can reuse the same category that we have created for the cluster because in the end the options will be the same, and we can do something similar. If you want, you can show it as a drop down or a checkbox, doesn't matter. Save and go back. I'm adding the code because I don't need to show the internal code to the users. Save and go back. We can do the same as we have done for the cluster. We can add a text field where we can specify the inaccessibility region, plot inaccessibility region. we make it relevant only when the user selects other reason. Here you see, apply. This is the final expression that will be used. We make it hidden. Okay. Then we can add some other attributes to the plot form. For example, we can add a plot location, a coordinate that the user can record in the field when he starts to assess this plot. We can call it plot location. Save and go back. We can add another attribute, for example, for the land use of this plot. So let's add a new code attribute in this case, because we want the user to select this land use from a list of possible values. Let's go here, create a new code attribute. We can call it plot land use. You can also call it just land use, because in our case there will be only a land use attribute inside the plot. Let's create a new category. The category will be land use. Let's add a few items. For example, we can start with a code number 1 for production forest, for example. Code number 2, we can use it for agriculture. And a code number 3, for example, we can use it for something like this, for a built up area. Code number 4 for a water body. And as usual, we can keep a code 99 for other type of land use. Now you can create by yourself a text attribute where you can specify the other type of land use if you want. Let's hide the code. This is our simple plot form. Now let's add inside this plot form a table where the user can insert the information about the trees for every plot. If you want to insert the table, just press as usual the plus icon on the top right corner, select table. You can call it just tree. Here we can choose if we want the table to appear in its own page or to keep the table inside the parent page. In this case is the plot. Since in this example the plot form is quite simple, we can keep the tree table inside the same page, or otherwise if you want you can show it in its own page. It will be more clear, but let's keep it now in the parent page. Save and go back. This will be our tree table. We can enlarge it a bit and let's define some attributes. For example, we can define an attribute for the identifier of the tree, a tree number. We can make it integer, tree number. Let's mark it as a key, and if you want you can make it auto incremental, so the ID, the number will be automatically generated. Let's add some other attributes, for example for to measure the position of this tree in relation to the plot center. So for example we can add an attribute for the angle that you measure in degrees. Let's do it as integer, tree angle in this case. In parentheses in the label you can specify that the unit of measurement is degrees. Let's add some other attribute, for example another attribute for the distance, distance from the plot center. In this case, let's make it as decimal because we want the distance to be in meters, so we want the user to be able to specify decimals in this attribute. 3 distance. Save and go back. Let's add another attribute as a code attribute for the healthy status, for the status of the tree, if it's healthy, if it's dead, or whatever it is. I'm creating a new code attribute for this tree health. Let's create a new category. The category can be called just health, and let's define some values. For example, 1 for healthy, 2 for diseased, 3 for burnt, and 4 dead, sorry, and as usual 99 for some other health state. Let's see if the user wants to write something else. Okay, this is our health attribute. Now let's continue with some other attributes. For example, one attribute for the dBH of the tree. Let's we can use it decimals or integer. It depends on the unit of measurement. For example, we can measure the dBH in centimeters, but let's keep it decimal just in case the user wants to be more precise in this. 3 dBH. Label can be just dBH. Let's add some other attributes. For example, for the total height of the tree, doing it as a decimal. 3 total height can be a label just total height. Another attribute for the bowl height, for example, bowl height. Usually, if you want, you can write in parentheses the unit of measurement. Let's do the same, for example, for total height and for dBH, centimeters. And also, if you want, we can add a text attribute for some remarks, in case the user wants to write some remarks. Single line or multi-line. In this case, would be better to have a possibility to insert multi-line text. This is the final table that we have. Let's try to make a preview, to show the preview of this table. Let's go to the plot, add a new plot. Here we have an empty list of trees. We use the plus icon to add a new one. You see, this is our table. Tree number automatically generated, as we have marked it in this way. And these are all the fields where the user can type text and insert values.